Thoughtless, casual gaming. Thoughtless, casual gaming. Thoughtless, casual gaming. Thoughtless, casual gaming. Before start, we've started. Look at that. We're playing.
Excellent. Hello, welcome. You are listening to Thoughtless Casual Gaming with Brett and Jace. We are a Geelong-based gaming podcast where we play games badly and then talk badly about playing said games badly.
We're badly squared.
We're badly at stuff. We're badly good. Wait.
Goodly bad?
Goodly bad? No, neither of those work.
No. But if we're badly bad, is that like a double negative and it actually means it's good? So we can't be that either.
Okay, just forget the last 30 seconds ever happened. I do want to say thank you to everyone that listened to our last episode. We were absolutely graced by having Mitch with us, and got to talk all things pop culture, which was lovely.
And if you've tuned in expecting that level of quality again, oh, guys, sorry to disappoint.
Just turn off now.
Yeah, best just end that.
But if you, for whatever reason, I was about to say if you're a regular listener of ours, I don't think we've got any.
Don't be.
But if you like what you heard last episode, by all means check out Geek Dudes, which is another podcast that Mitch is on. They talk pretty much the same sort of things as what we talked last week, except they do it better. They are very not safe for anywhere, in their own words. So be prepared for...
Don't be fooled when I tuned into the latest episode of Geek Dudes and the first 10 minutes they talked about football. And I'm like,
no, that's not usual.
They nearly lost me at that point in time, but no, they turned that around.
That's not the usual. It's very much what you heard. And I think Mitch even described our episode on Geek Dudes as pretty much Geek Dudes. So,
yeah, very much so.
Except maybe a little safer, which is saying something.
Wow. I had to lift my game.
Well, look, if you have tuned in for more of the same, no, we're going back to our regular scheduled programming. So speaking of regular, Jace.
I have been keeping up my fibre.
Excellent. Good to know. What hobby have you been doing, though? Have you been doing hobby, or have you been focused on the fibre too much?
It's a new kind of sculpting. Let me talk to you about it. Anyway.
Not after I just take a mouthful of drink. God almighty. That almost went everywhere.
I always like you more after you've taken a mouthful, but anyway. So hobby that I have done, this has gone south so quickly. Let's get back.
3 minutes in and I'm broken.
Okay. Shit. So, hobby things that I have done. I think the first thing I wanted to kick on is...
I'm seriously crying here. Sorry. Go on.
Where the fuck was I?
Right, one thing that you wanted to...
I can't remember what that was, but that's cool. We'll come back to it. It'll kick back. Things I've bought, because that's important for me.
Yes.
And you'll appreciate, because you'll tag in at this one as well. So, I mean, the first thing was I have mentioned over the last couple of episodes how I have been dabbling with contrast paints.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I bought some more of those and this will come later, but I was in my friendly local gaming store, Throw the Dice, recently because we have been allowed to do that and it's been the best thing in the world.
Here.
But yeah, it meant that I was able to pick up some extras and I am finding them creeping more and more into my regular way of painting now. It's becoming a legitimate thing. So I am definitely going to probably get more again. It's going to become a thing, but I am really enjoying those at the moment. And then I, in a Facebook chat the other day, it was only yesterday. It was maybe even today. I don't even know.
If
Great.
this is what I'm thinking,
This is exactly what
yesterday.
you're thinking of. A friend of mine, a friend of ours, Chris, literally just tagged me in a message. Well, he's mine now. Because he tagged me in a message, and it was just a photo of a couple of boxes, clearly in a retail store with price tags and everything on them. It was things like the Diachasm box for some ridiculous price. It was like $60 or something. There was also the Dark Elves from Underworlds, whatever they're called. They were like $20-$30 or something. It was something stupidly good. But the shining gold, the diamond in that rough, was a photo of the box of the Vampires Underworlds team.
I take it back. I'm fighting for Chris.
So he tagged me in this, and I immediately said, "Oh, where did you find these?" To which some smartass in the chat replied, "Well, the price tag says Toy World, so take a stab." Okay, smartass. So long story short, he was on a bit of a holiday with the family, wandered into Toy World for something to do, saw these and just went, "Hey, are you interested?" And I said, "Look, if you're going to buy them, buy them. Don't let me ruin your holiday. But if you are not going to buy them, and then I will buy them from you." So I have second-hand Underworld's vampires coming my way because I couldn't say no. And at some stage in the next week, I will catch up with Chris and do a bit of a handover and offer him whatever his heart desires, really, for what I maintain is the prettiest crew that GW have brought out. So that was a serendipitous moment and in other ways dull and dreary workday week. Other things, I woke up the other day and I had a couple of notifications from Kickstarter, and I literally opened the first one and it was a new Kickstarter from Ian Lovecraft, who does a lot of STL files for 3D printing. I've backed a lot of his stuff. He does a lot of really nice terrain. He's starting to branch into models and miniatures and stuff now. But I have a lot of his work, and he launched a new one. And because I literally opened this, basically as soon as I got up, I had a crying child in the background saying, "I need a bottle." I went, "Wait, I need to check my Kickstarter notifications." 8-month-old baby desperately screaming for a bottle. You can just hold your horses. And that was still had the early bird discount, so that got a back straight away. And then I opened the second notification and my heart doth stop. It was finally, and I knew it was coming, but I kind of forgotten exactly the timing and dates and stuff.
Oh, look, it's been coming for months.
This is literally like the situation of my wife. But anyway, the Cool Mini or Not, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe board game that they have been promising to deliver via Kickstarter forever, and I've been thoroughly excited about. And I got the notification to say it was finally live. I backed it. I sent the message to you saying it was finally live. You said you'd already received that message and backed it. So now we both have it as far as...
Yeah, I got up early for work and, I saw the notification and I thought, oh, okay. And I jumped on. I looked at the options and there's only 2 options, which is, I suppose that's to be expected.
Technically 3.
Yeah, well.
Back it because you love it.
Give the money for nothing, or...
So the base game... With all of and it's Cool Mini or Not, they know how to do a Kickstarter, and my phone has been going off just update after update of new stretch goals and unlocked things, and like there will be boxes of shit that comes alongside with this base game if you've backed it on Kickstarter, because they're just firing through all this shit. So you can buy the base game, happy days, or you can buy the base game and the Castle Grayskull expansion, which I really want an itty bitty Castle Grayskull.
I know.
But that is double the price. And frankly, I don't really want to spend $300 on a board game. So
even
I
a
have
Masters one.
I know, and even and apparently the little drawbridge drops down, and his mouth. And no, I've so far stayed strong. And look, this may end up bad in the pledge manager at the end of this, because they've also unlocked the second expansion, which is the She-Ra expansion.
Yep, I saw that. Are you keen on She-Ra?
Look, I really like the ridiculous kind of token effort to attract females to what was a fundamentally male-dominated genre at that time. And I think it's ridiculous that you have heroes like Perfumer.
Yep.
But I'm not sure that the mild amusement I get from that is worth spending another $50, $60, whatever it is. So probably not.
I mean, it's definitely a come on Kickstarter. Like, there is so much that they've unlocked already, and none of the thing that has so far surprised me a little bit is that all of these Kickstarter exclusives have been unlocked for the base version, not if you back the double one.
Yeah.
I fully expected something to say only if you get Castle Grayskull.
Everything, yeah.
As well.
Only if you throw a butt ton of money our way. But no, they've been really, really good about it. And I'm basically getting these updates going, oh, shit, I used to own him. Oh, shit. Like, there is toys that I'd forgotten I once owned that I no longer own because my siblings are jerks, and ruin everything nice I had.
Is this making you look at reacquiring?
I really shouldn't. I don't need this expense in my life. It's terrifying, frankly. I'd forgotten that I owned Stone as a child and Rock On, and I probably need them again. But no, if I have tiny little miniature versions I could paint, that's enough. That's enough.
Well, you'll soon have two of each of them that you can paint. Look, it's very much, like I said, it's very much a come on Kickstarter because I mean, what did I jumped on about 7 o'clock in the morning, and they were well and truly already over their limit, over their funding.
Yeah, it was back,
goal.
Right? It was funded. Yep.
It's currently sitting at 5 times funded, so 500%. And there's still 13 days to go. So,
yeah,
if you are interested, have a look. Kickstarter, Masters of the Universe. It does have He-Man in this version.
To be fair, so did the TV series.
Well, yes, for a moment. Anyway, continue.
In there. Anyway, honestly, that's about all I've managed to throw money at in the last however long. I was in Throw the Dice looking desperately for more things to purchase, going, I don't need anything right this second. So I'm currently crafting a list of things I need that I can throw at Rich to order for me if he doesn't have them in stock. So that was kind of the buying stuff. The other thing I just wanted to touch on really quickly is at the moment, Gen Con is obviously a thing that is happening. And so while it's not really me doing hobby, I have just been absorbing update after update between Weird Games and their Malifaux next
of course.
The release.
Mm-hmm.
So the new book is coming out for Malifaux, the next expansion. And there is so much getting launched for that, as well as a couple of standalone games. The Atomic Mass, the Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff that is slowly bouncing out, and Games Workshop they made my little day today. Like, again, it just lifted me up.
Can we just, before we go any further, I just want to sort of stress the point. I mean, A, this is fantastic news. B, this is for a game that we have not had anything new apart from a book for 12 months.
And they did what they should have done all along. They have basically just totally repented for all their sins, past, present, future, and they released the video for the Khorne Blood Bowl team. This is the team that was, I think it was a fan-made one originally, as far as NAF is concerned.
It's originally a NAF one. I don't think it's made its way anywhere else.
It made
was it in the game?
It made it into the previous version of the Cyanide game as an expansion.
Okay.
You had downloadable content for Khorne and Britannia.
Mm-hmm.
So not the current one, the one before that, whatever the fuck it was.
Number one.
And then it disappeared with the latest version, and it has never been seen again until now. And the models are pretty.
They are glorious.
I already have a Khorne team, and they're mostly painted, and I don't need to do this again, and that is a dilemma.
Well, your Khorne team is very similar sort of models as a general rule, isn't it, to what they've released?
It's actually pretty close, because I used one of the original Age of Sigmar starters, the Khorne side of that. So it's all the kind of Khorne, I don't know, Blood Reavers and stuff. And they've kind of used a very similar kind of aesthetic for these guys. So it actually fits in really well. I suppose I've got original like Bloodletter Demons. They've replaced those with like Khorne Gore type situations. I think they're calling them Best of Gore, but they're very corny, which is the best thing in the world. And we are yet to see if the Bloodthirster or Big Guy equivalent makes the cut, which would be very exciting.
I'll be surprised if there isn't a big guy for the team, whether or not it's something new and exciting, or if they just add, say, the Minotaur in.
Yeah, and that's almost what I'm expecting. Like, given that the current team, have they got the option of the Troll, the Ogre, or the Minotaur? I think they've got the option, but they can only pick one.
I think so. And then the other Chaos team can take 3 of the big guys.
Yeah.
And they can take a Rat Ogre as well.
So I would love them to bring in the Bloodthirster, and even if they call it something different, because Bloodthirst is probably a little bit ridiculous for the scale of the game, but just, a unique big guy with the same stats as he always had. Sign me the hell up. But there's also probably equal opportunity, though, to just drop in a Minotaur and move on from there, which is not the worst in the world.
Look, there's been rumours of this happening, and I don't think anyone was overly confident that the rumours would come about. What was the star player that
Sigler?
They announced him, a couple of months ago, a month or two ago?
Yep.
And he's very cornate, and that, I think, started everybody thinking, "Ooh, hang on."
Maybe they have. Maybe they've done it. Yeah.
But yeah, at the very least, I'm sure you could use him as your big guy.
Yes.
Keep it in theme, because that's a pretty model. I like that model.
He is nice. What is possibly even more exciting is what Grebo will eventually release. And then what kind of fluffy animal version they will release.
There will be one,
for
sure.
So excited. Anyway, so I think, I'm just enjoying the flood of updates and new models and sculpts and rules and all that kind of jazz, which is glorious. It's just spending too much of my time doing that. Other things that have happened, I have spent a little bit of time on the Xbox just doing stuff. I may have played through all of the story mode of Mortal Kombat 11 just because I hadn't done that yet. And got very, very frustrated when you burn through the whole story mode and it's happy days and you have to retry maybe once or twice, but that's about it. And then you get to the final boss fight and they just murder you and you're like, well, fuck this game.
Yeah.
It's like you swap the difficulty from easy to like Death Wish.
That's kind of standard for a Mortal Kombat game. I've seen that in the past. I haven't played 11, but I've definitely seen that in the past.
Yeah. But it was, it was very much a shift in gears. And I tried it a few times, went, this is silly, and went and played some more Vermintide. Because at least then I don't have to think too much. So that is that. As far as Television, the only thing of real note is getting up to date with What If. So Marvel's What If. So the most recent one was the Killmonger episode.
Yes. And I think, did we talk about... No, we didn't. Last episode was before the Zombies episode
as well.
So
there's been two. Zombie... And I think Zombies is clearly that's the flagship episode. That is the one that they were kind of backing themselves on, I think, realistically, to go, hey, isn't this cool?
Yes. Look, I didn't mind the Zombies episode, but it was, and it needed to be, but it still upsets me that it was, but it was very toned down.
Yes.
From the comics. Like, in the comics, when there is this zombie apocalypse, which is incidentally brought on by Reed Richards, he's the guy that's to blame for it all.
Doesn't exist in the MCU. We need to move right along.
Yes, exactly. Spider-Man is one of the first to go.
Oh.
But he fights it really hard and basically becomes this zombie because it doesn't affect the brain. It just makes them want human flesh. So he basically becomes this zombie with incredible feelings of guilt for eating his wife and his aunt and absolutely horrified with what they've become. Some of the others are a little more accepting of it. But he's definitely not what he was in the cartoon.
And look, I feel like they have kind of accepted that they can take the concept from the comic, but then they basically have to run an MCU version of whatever the comic was about, and a kind of PG version of an MCU version of whatever the comic was about as well. So it's a tricksy one. And I feel like the fact that they have resigned this to an MCU fluff piece is a little bit disappointing. That being said, if you disregard the comics completely, and if you're perfectly okay, if your only Marvel knowledge comes from MCU, you're probably very happy right now. I feel like Hank Pym's getting a rough trot.
Yeah, look, he's not coming off well, is he?
No, he's really not a good dude. But they need a kind of good bad guy, so that's cool.
Just as an aside, the original Marvel comics, Marvel Zombies comics, were written by Robert Kirkman, who did Walking Dead. So just to give you a level of, and if you've read any of the Walking Dead comics, they are, people die and people lose limbs and shit doesn't go well generally. And it's kind of the same thing in the Marvel.
Yeah, I can see how that's, and look, I think I really liked, I liked the attempt. I feel like there was a lot of holes that they really didn't explain. Like how the hell zombies got into Iron Man armor, I don't know. I still don't get that exactly. I mean, I maybe get the Ant-Man version where he dives in the tiny little nano holes, but it
was all right. I watched it.
I feel like I enjoyed the bit of the kind of cliffhanger ending that they gave it without spoiling anything. I think it was nice, but I feel like they were really hoping that would be the ace in the hole. Like that was the silver bullet to go, oh my God, mind blown. And it was cool. I don't think it quite hit that level of cool.
Yeah.
So it has legitimately been the first Marvel series that my wife has tagged out of and just gone, watch it yourself. I'm done.
Fair enough.
And it's probably the one that I am just watching because it's there, not watching because I desperately need to see the next episode.
And I mean, the thing that I think that it's got going for it too is the fact that they're all individual episodes. They're not that long.
No.
Yeah.
And that's it. You can just go, oh, I've got half an hour.
Yeah.
I'll just burn through one. And you don't feel like you've wasted too much of your life. And equally, I think the other thing they've got going for them is the fact that they're there in a time where people have time and want content. So it is filling a void. And sometimes it is the size that counts. So the only other thing, actual hobby things that I have been doing, a little bit of painting. I've done some work on who I'm referring to as Guilt Dwarf. So the long story short here is I made an agreement. There was an accord that a friend of mine would print me a bunch of stuff for Warmaster, of which is still in a box and I haven't looked at. And in return, I would paint an original Lord of the Rings Fellowship set, so the 9 odd models that they have for the original Fellowship. And that has been sitting on my to-do list for so long, and I've just been putting the fuckers off because I already have the Warmaster stuff sitting in boxes that I'm not looking at, that I would rather be painting. I already have a lot of other things that I would rather be painting, but I have this actual obligation to paint stuff. And frankly, I don't like the Lord of the Rings models from G-Dub at all. They're shit.
I don't think you've been a fan of Lord of the Rings in general, have you?
Look, I like the franchise as a concept. No, but realistically, I don't like the concept of them as gaming models because there is a correct way to paint them, or things because they have so much of a rich backstory. And I don't like the scale because they're just too small to be good and just too big to be easy. So they fit this really kind of awkward where they feel like you should put more effort in, but it's too fucking hard. So I have pretty much what I've done. I've already done Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
I've now done Gimli, and I have moved on to Legolas, as he shall be known. So I made a start on him, and I've just got to knock these cats on the head and move on with my life at some point. And then
that's the spirit.
To break it up and to give myself a little bit of hope at the end of the day, I have been continuing work on my Paint It Pink entry, which is the Imperial Nobility Ringer from the Blood Bowl team in the starter set. To be honest, he is a lot of fun. Not only have I gone completely over the top with as much pink as I could cram into a model, but there's just the right balance of a little bit of detail, lots of flat surface and space to do stuff, some texture, but it's just they're nice, clean, easy sculpts that give you some space to do stuff. And it has been kind of the palette cleanser while I'm kind of slogging at the stuff that I'm not enjoying as much. So there's a tip. If you're really trying to slog through something, just give yourself something fun to break it up with because it makes all of the difference. And that has been me.
That's a fair effort. I mean, it's been 2 weeks?
Probably.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
I think we're back on track. So that's a decent effort.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Tell some men. I don't know if I've done more purchases or more thinking about purchases than you have.
You haven't done more thinking about purchases than I have. I just didn't. So we don't need a 3-hour podcast on shit I would like to buy.
I did pick up a couple of paints from Bradley now that GW is back open, which I'm using to paint one of my ogres. So I'm very excited that I have new paints. Also very disappointed that I've just worked out that I don't have enough spots in my paint racks to accommodate said paints.
You have orphan paints.
Yeah, so that's something I'm going to have to look into now. I did pick up Throw the Dice. From Throw the Dice, I picked up Bishop Malifaux. And from you, I picked up a couple of cats from Malifaux that I need to pay you back for. So a couple of the nightmare cats, the cat herder, cat princess, all those kind of cool things, which God knows when I'm going to get the guts to put them together. But I have them. I own them. That's the main thing. I have a crazy cat lady named Caitlin and all her pretty cats. And that just needs to happen for me in my life.
To be fair, like assembling those was less rage-inducing than other Malifaux models that I have assembled.
That's not how you were reacting when you were putting them together.
Correct. But now I have put them together, and there are legitimately other models that I started putting together and then abandoned halfway through.
So if what I'm hearing here is that you're not enjoying painting Lord of the Rings and you need something to break it up with.
I said something I enjoy. Just because I didn't say something I don't hate.
Okay, fair enough. I have also ordered, which has come in for me, and now I just need to pick it up, which I'll probably do next week, the Dark Elf Pitch and the Dark Elf Dice. So I've got both of those waiting for me.
Full size or sevens?
It's full size because they haven't done any special sevens. They've only done the 1/7 pitch, which both angers and I am extremely grateful for.
Gladdens, yeah.
Yes. And now that the Khorne team is coming, there's another. I do like those models. Some of the GW Blood Bowl models I'm hit or miss with. So, but those ones, they're pretty.
I did see it. Like literally, they got dropped today, and there's already a meme bouncing around with the Chaos, the original Chaos team, with a photo of one of the blockers, and it's just like, and then the Khorne team Chaos Warrior. And it's just like, you versus the guy she told you not to worry about.
Yes, I've seen that one too.
I'm like, not even, a day has passed.
But with Khorne, I mean, I'm going to need the Khorne team. That's for sure. That goes without saying. But it's not just going to be the team. They're going to release that team with some dice, with a pitch, most likely. So that's two more things I'm going to need to get. Anyway, as you said, we're both on the He-Man Kickstarter, and I did sort of take full advantage of a scenario today and I ordered a Mr. Sinister for Marvel Crisis Protocol, which will be here within the next couple of weeks. Unlike you, I haven't been keeping up with Gen Con. I've just been sort of seeing the GW updates. So I didn't even consider Malifaux, Crisis Protocol updates, things like that. I did see the Underworlds update, though.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I'm currently sitting at probably 99% Underworlds. I have everything but, like, one token card expansion and one of the crews.
Which crew?
One of the Champions of Dreadframe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the ones that didn't actually come with any extra cards, and I didn't feel like owning 17 different Sigma Marines warbands.
Guess who's in the new box?
Yes, but I mean the orcs look really cool. And to be honest, for that, the Sigmarines actually look kind of decent as well.
They're probably the best Sigmarines they've done to date.
There's a couple of the leaks though were like that. There's going to be faction specific cards, which means that you might be able to use it with your I don't know what are the destruction, death, what are the
Oh, okay, like their Grand Alliance style.
Yeah, so I mean maybe you can use it just Grand Alliance or the evil version. I was about to say Horde, but I think that's Warcraft.
Yeah.
But the thing that concerns me is the picture of the board with the models on it, with all the tokens on it, and the cards cards have different backs, which makes
reset.
Makes mixing cards between sets very difficult unless you have non-clear card sleeves. And it worries me that I mean, I'll have to wait and see. That maybe it's like the basic faction-specific token decks, but I can't see a reason to have those different to the ones that you would normally play with. And if the cards are all different backs, I don't know. Maybe we'll wait and see, but maybe I just stick to the Underworlds teams that I want to paint and not worry about the game as a whole.
Look,
I don't know.
I feel
it has to happen at some point.
At some point, yeah, we can't keep up forever. I honestly struggle with the rotating season situation. The orcs, I'm a little bit on the new orc aesthetic.
Okay, I didn't mind it.
I don't mind it. It just feels a little bit more. I don't know. I kind of want to see what they go with it. Obviously, it follows on with their 40k orc aesthetic as well, but it just, I don't know. It feels a little bit more Lord of the Ringsy to me. I know they've tried to go a little bit more unique, but
and we know how you feel about Lord of the Ringsy.
Well, I will admit that the sort of original Games Workshop orc aesthetic was a little bit goofy, and you either had to like that or you didn't like that. Like that's cool. And I've always said that the 40k orcs in the Warhammer world had more personality as a faction.
Yep.
Whereas the fantasy ones were kind of the poor man's equivalent. And I appreciate that they're trying to do something to separate them a little bit, and give them a little bit more of a unique identifier and all that kind of stuff. But they just, I don't know, they seem like what I would expect from orcs that weren't goofy. Like you go Grimdark orcs. All right, there you go.
Yep.
Cut, paste. So yeah, I'm a little bit on the fence around the new orc models. The Sigmarines, as I said, I don't really want them because they're Sigmarines, but they are legitimately probably the best ones that they've brought out to date. They've got the most character. They've got the most uniqueness around.
Yeah, they all look a bit different. So.
Yeah, they seem like characters, not just three dudes that you could pull into a box. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm just going to pick up ones I think are pretty, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a wait and see thing for me. Unlike the last couple, which I've jumped on board and been day one purchases for everything since Shadespire. Not the cruise, but the basic packs I'm talking about. So not Dreadfane, Chasm, Diachasm, Beastgrave, and whatever the other one was. That's about it. Nighthaunt.
Totally remembered.
Yes. It's been a while since we played. We should play.
We should. We have other things.
We do have other things. TV-wise, so apart from What If, a couple of other quick things. I did finish Clickbait. And what did I have last time I talked about it? It was like 2 episodes to go, I think.
Yes.
And I was pretty sure I had the ending in my head.
Yep.
Yeah, and I didn't. Which kind of I like. Yep. It was definitely a decent watch, and I do like Adrian Grenner or whatever his name is. I think I'm better with names at the moment than I was last episode. But yeah, definitely a good watch if you've got Netflix. Only 8 episodes long. Pretty decent. I did sit down and I watched a movie with the wife last night. Yes. So I watched a movie that has intrigued us. Like, the idea sounds fantastic. The execution. I cannot remember a movie that I have disliked more in a long time. What we watched was Old, the new M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, yes.
Yes, about a beach where every 30 minutes that you're on this beach is a year in your life.
Yeah.
The idea is fantastic and intriguing and all the rest of it. And the acting and the script were abysmal. Like, I kept apologizing to my wife all night. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I wanted this to be good. I really did. You know, the dog's dead. He was alive a minute ago. Like, Jesus, man. Like, 5.7 or something on IMDb at the moment. It should be worse. It was, I wanted it to be good. I really did.
Look,
so
he had the Sixth Sense. Move on.
Yeah, look, I pegged the ending for Sixth Sense in the middle of that film. What did I like? I didn't mind Village, actually. Was it The Village? Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to end on a bad note like I did last episode with Southland. So I remembered today, as I was doing a lot of tidying up upstairs, a TV show that I love that there is a new season of that I had not started watching. And so I started watching. And I watched the first 2 episodes. Incidentally, there have been 8 released so far. Season 3 of Titans. And look, I don't know if I can, like, at the moment in my head, Titans feels like the best current TV show for me. I really loved season 1. Season 2 was decent. Season 3, just, I think I probably talked about this in the past. I definitely, maybe not on the podcast, but like, the last episode of season 1 of Titans for me was like an orgasm in my head. Season 3 is so far 2 episodes in, absolutely fucking amazing. Without giving anything away. I mean, the basic storyline, I'll give you the basic because it happens in not very long into the first episode. Very Gotham-centered.
Mm-hmm.
Red Hood-centered.
Mm-hmm.
Within the first 2 episodes, you see Barbara Gordon in a wheelchair, which is my favorite Barbara Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
You see Red Hood. You find out who Red Hood is.
Mm-hmm.
There's an Easter egg which mentions the name Carrie Kelly, which is just like an Easter egg I did not expect in this sort of time frame. But you get to see the silhouette or the outline of Joker taking a crowbar to a robin. And this is the best thing. It's like in the last episode of season 1, you don't necessarily see the Joker, but you see the result of the Joker. It's kind of the same thing. You don't see the Joker per se, but what you see, I got that feeling from the last episode of season 1 all over again. And I have another 6 episodes so far to go. And I am very excited.
Today just gets brighter and brighter.
So there was Old, like on a level that's barely off the ground, and then there's fucking Titans way up, somewhere up there. And God, I hope it keeps this up, because if it does, I mean, I love Red Hood as a character. I always have. And this is bad Red Hood. You know, this is when he first comes on the scene and he is shooting everyone. He's taking control. Nightwing looks fucking incredible. Starfire looks really, really good. Crypto, it's got fucking Superman's dog in it. Beast Boy, Superboy, the Hawk and Dove are back in it. And yeah, it's already throwing in so much. That just makes me excited.
Going to have to go back and watch the first two again just to get back.
I was tempted, but now I'm on season 3 now. I can't stop.
There's no going back. Oh, shit balls.
Yes. So, shall we finish on a high and take a break?
So high. Just to cap that right off, I've just looked. So I have a bottle of water in my hobby space that I basically fill out and just use to top up my wet palette and rinsing brush cups and shit like that, right? Mm-hmm. And I've never paid it any notice. And I looked at it for the first time, really, and it's Coolidge, and then the the little kind of tagline behind it that I have never read until today just says water, fueling life. Since always.
Okay.
That's the best thing. Anyway, that's almost as good as Sight in Season 3. Let's just double high that and call it a break.
Okay, done.
There once was a ship that put to sea. The name of the ship was the Billy of Tea. The winds blew up her bow, dip down, oh blow me, bully boys blow. She had not been 2 weeks from shore. Down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the woman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the woman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Before the boat had hit the water, the whale still came up and caught her and to the side, boomed and fought her when she died down below. The line was cut, the whale was free. The captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the whaleman's creed. She took the ship in tow. Soon may the woman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the woman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. 40 days or even more, the line was slacked and tight once more. Boats were lost, there were only 4, but still that well did go. Huzzah, heard the fight still on, the line's not cut and the whale's not gone. The whaleman makes his regular call to a good the captain, crew and all. Soon may the woman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the woman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Guten Lieben, Lauben, Loben.
Games. We have played some games.
We totally did play actual games with physical people in a real place.
And it was glorious.
Fuck me, I've missed it. Anyway.
Yes. Screw you, lockdown. It's great to be back playing something. First thing I wanted to touch base on is just quickly a couple of updates with the Blood Bowl League for all those excited to hear. We had a bit of issues with our local league with the website being down. So we couldn't download the team lists with all the updated details. So Lockie and I did have a quick Blood Bowl game, let's say after work one day, and it was everything that Blood Bowl should be. It was a sevens game. We played just base teams for our chosen teams, which was Skaven versus Halflings, and the first half, everything that could go right almost did. So Lockie chose to receive, and being Skaven, he scored in turn 2.
Correct, yeah.
The Halflings then got the ball, threw a perfectly good Halfling, and scored in their turn 4.
Shit.
Skaven turn around, receive the ball, and then score in their turn 6. Halflings have 1 turn left in the half. A perfectly thrown Halfling with a 6 needed a 3+ to land correctly and score, and got a 1. So almost an absolutely perfect first half. So we go into the second half 2-1, And the opposite happened. Every roll that could go wrong went wrong for both teams. The ball didn't get further than the middle of it didn't get up to the middle of the pitch. So Lockie kicked to me, and then I think my first turn I failed to pick up the ball. And then people were falling over left, right, and centre, and the end result was 2-1. It was glorious. It was the best game because it epitomised everything that can go right and everything that can go wrong in Blood Bowl. And I loved every second of it. But in good news, I contacted the webmaster of the website, and he fixed everything within a day. So we have actually had a couple of league games, which is great. So Lockie did play James, which was always going to be the grudge match of the season. Pretty much Lockie has said he doesn't care what happens as long as he beats James. That was all that mattered. And James was determined to beat the crap out of the Skaven. The game itself happened at Throw the Dice, which was great. Good to be back there playing some games or seeing some games being played. End result was a 1-0 win for the Skaven. Would have been 2-1. Apart from a couple of dice rolls. So he's got to run in the last turn of this first half, needed to dodge twice and 2 go for it's to score.
Oh, well, that's definite death.
Yes, so first dodge failed. The dodge reroll succeeded. The second dodge succeeded. The first go for it succeeded. And then all he needed was 2+ to get into the end zone, which, as you know, if you've listened to this or if you've played any Blood Bowl, a go for it or a sprint or whatever they're calling it these days, to get a touchdown, rush, whatever, it's guaranteed that 1 in 6 chance of you failing then becomes kind of like a 90% chance of you failing, and Lockie definitely failed it. So 1-0 win to the Skaven. The other game that happened was the current undefeated Underworlds team, run by Bradley from GW in Geelong, played up against Dylan's 8th place Black Hawk team. And we got some couple of updates throughout the day. The end result was 2-1, which seemed like a legitimate end result until Dylan actually confirmed that he won the game.
I did ask for clarification.
It surprised, I think, pretty much everyone, which is great. It was good to see Dylan get a win on the board, and I think he jumped up a good couple of places. Yeah.
I totally spoke to him at work the next day. He was a little bit chuffed. He was
can
a little
imagine.
bit happy.
I can imagine, but yeah, look, there were thrown trolls. There was a troll that vomited over one of the Blackhawks and killed him. There was various other bits and pieces that went on throughout the game, and you know, we got pictures of the touchdowns as they happened, but I think for 2 of those pictures there was a guy from both teams in the end zone, and I couldn't work out who had the ball, so I just went, okay.
I'll just wait for an update. Yeah,
yes.
I've just been hanging on, and then they gave us the update, and it was like 2-1, and I'm like, yeah, but who was the 2 and who was the 1? This is important. And then, yeah, they confirmed, and I had to take a moment, sit down, and reevaluate my life choices and all those things.
Yeah, I think I asked for clarification as well, but was not expecting the response that I got. Love it. I love Blood Bowl.
So good. So good. I also really enjoy how excited Dylan was when a troll threw up on his Black Hawk and killed it.
Yes.
And it was the first time he'd seen it done, and he didn't realize it was a thing that could happen, and it happened, and he was so happy about it. And I had to try and then explain the benefits of choosing the vomit attack versus just a regular block and when you would do each, because he was just like, why aren't you vomiting every turn on everybody?
Dylan, I love Dylan because he's like one of the best people to play against in Blood Bowl because he absolutely is there 100% for the game and never expects to win and just wants to have fun.
Yeah.
And so every game against him, I reckon, no matter who you are, I reckon it's going to be a fun game. So yeah, very chuffed to see him get a win, but at the same time, his level of enthusiasm and the comments and happiness that came through in his updates would not have changed if the result was the other way around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with absolutely no pause, interruption, or technical hitch at all, we are continuing with our Blood Bowl conversation.
So I'd like to apologise if I now sound normal because I'm back on a normal mic. And so if I sounded better with the crappier mic, I apologise. I should be back to my regular level of shitness. But, so we were talking about Blood Bowl. While James and Lockie were getting their Blood Bowl on at Throw the Dice, you and I were also there, Jace.
We were.
And we were having a game of our own.
And it was the best because it's a game I've been hanging out to try for the last however long. And admittedly, it was a game that I kind of dragged my wife through the night before just so I had a vague idea how it played.
And how did she take that?
Look, it was interesting. Clearly, we're in lockdown and she's a little bit bored because the way this plays out is she's done her back recently and she's a little bit sore and stuff. And so she was just on the couch watching some trash, as you do, and I drag a whole bunch of shit out. And I'm just like, I'm just going to run through this game on the kitchen table so I know how to play it tomorrow night. So, keep doing your thing. I'm just going to ignore me. This is business as usual, so it shouldn't be hard. And she goes, what are you doing? I went, I'm just going to try and run through this game. She goes, do you need another player?
Yes.
How bored are you? But sure, but don't feel obliged. Like I'm not. She's like, no, I'll come and have a look. So we had a quick run through, and turns out I got a number of things wrong. But it gave us.
Maybe we got things wrong in our game.
I need to go back and check.
I don't know. I haven't checked.
I haven't either. We'll find out. I definitely got some things wrong, to be fair. But yeah, whether we got all of them wrong, who knows? Anywho, so yeah, we had a bit of a run through the night before just to make sure that I had it would flow as smooth as possible on the official gaming night at Throw the Dice. So we have been playing 3 games now. Well, me 3, you 2, of Marvel United. So this was a Kickstarter a while ago. It was one that I very nearly backed at Kickstarter level and managed to stop myself and then regretted it ever since. But fortunately...
The lesson here is never deny yourself anything.
Correct. It's just... You just end up eating a big old bowl of regretty, which is my least favourite pasta dish. But fortunately for me, great and amazing fellow human and friend of the show, or at least one of us, Jared did back it and then decided he wanted other stuff instead and sold it to me. So I have the Kickstarter that I never backed for less than I would have backed it at the Kickstarter level.
Everyone's a winner.
Yes, that's what we decide. So in true form, I then invited him to come along and play with us at Throw the Dice, in the hopes that he'd actually played it, knew what he was doing, so he could show us. I didn't tell him that, but that was the kind of the plan. So for anyone who isn't familiar, Marvel United Kickstarter a while ago was the one with the kind of chibi, cutesy style Marvel characters. There's a shit ton of them. There's a lot of them. But the paint scheme, like the paint jobs for all of the models over the course of the Kickstarter were all done by Big Child Creatives. And they all did it in a really kind of comic booky, almost cel shaded way. And it blew my mind. And half the reason I wanted to back it was because of the paint scheme and the paint that they'd done for the, and then part of the reason I didn't want to back it was because I would never be able to replicate the paint schemes for the Kickstarter, but I really, really want to, but it's terrifying.
Incidentally, have you ever painted all the models for a board game?
No, never. And I'm definitely not going to do it for this one. There's shit tons.
I've never done it either. I've never been confident enough to do it. I've got a mate of mine that's pretty much what he does. He does a lot of model painting, but he plays board games. So he will buy Zombicide, for example, on the Kickstarter and then paint everything.
That is the dream, right? That is, I mean, to actually play Zombicide with fully painted everythings.
And he's an incredible painter. I got him to do up one of my Underworld's teams.
Yeah,
I just love his painting, and that's what he does. He buys the odd war game model. Like I think he's got a lot of the Crisis Protocol ones, for example. But he doesn't play those games. He just plays the board games. He just gets the models to paint because that's what he enjoys doing. Well, he also has a shit ton of Lego, which is fantastic. You go up into his attic, and it's kind of like the basement in the Lego movie. Anyway, continue. Total tangent.
That was glorious. I loved it. I was actually thinking today about how I'm going to get some of the models for this game painted at least, because I really need an excuse to force myself to paint them and to try and kind of not replicate, but at least do a little bit of a homage to that kind of cel shaded kind of comic booky style that Big Child Creatives did. And it's incredible. They had like 4 or 5 artists all painting this stuff and it looks coherent. Like, stop being so goddamn talented.
Says Jace.
So I need to find a way to force myself to paint some of these at some point in time. And I feel like the way that I do this is we actually organize some more games of United at some point in time. And whoever is playing, I then find out which character they want to play in advance. And they are the ones that I pull out of the box and actually spend some time on.
I feel like this is the right way of doing it. I feel like with that many models, like you brought out, I mean, it's typical Kickstarter, but you brought out a box which was it almost the same size as the actual game, and it was just
bigger.
Filled. It's bigger, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought the game was bigger. Anyway, so the bigger box is just full of extra models.
Yeah.
So by painting the ones that you will use, because you don't use an awful lot of models for a game.
Correct.
It's one per person plus the bad guy.
Yeah, and there's a maximum of 4 players, so it makes it, 5 models in a game. Not too bad. I could do 5 models. I feel like that's probably the way we'll do it. So we will at some stage have to do another session, and that is currently my plan, just so I've done something for them, because otherwise they will do exactly what Rising Sun has done, and it's sat in my cupboard completely unpainted since I got it.
Yep. Yeah, you could definitely limit yourself, especially if there's particular characters that everybody likes playing, and there's particular characters that nobody ever wants to play, like, I don't know, like Black Widow or someone.
Agreed. Who would play that?
I know, right?
So yeah, I think that because I definitely I need to find some way to force them to. The other option I have, and here is a sneaky thought. We are talking about the potential of playing some more Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Yes.
I could create complete chibi Crisis Protocol crews of basically whatever the hell I wanted to run, because there's a shit ton of models there. And then that would force me to paint those ones too.
Yes.
It would mean total immersion destruction for anyone I'm playing against, but I would get to play with the cute little chibi models that are adorable. So fuck everyone else. That's my current thought.
Does Crisis Protocol use like line of sight type things?
No. It uses, look, you need to be able to see, but effectively there's a height of everything. So each of the models have a height, and then terrain and everything has a height. So as long as you look at the size of the base and the height of the actual model, it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, cool. So
Which is why everyone can stand on a tactical
it.
rock. It's absolutely achievable gameplay-wise. It is just throwing in a completely different aesthetic into a game, which some people will care for and others will not.
Yeah. No, makes sense. Makes sense.
Anywho, we didn't play Crisis Protocol. We played Marvel United. And united we were. So, premise of the game. It's... So, 2 to 4, but effectively you can play it 1 to 4 player cooperative game where you have each pick a hero to be from the extensive array that there are, and then you pick a villain to come. And the villains all have unique win objectives, and then the heroes basically have to beat up the villain before they get their unique win objectives. And there's a few other pieces, like if the heroes run out of cards to play. So the way it plays, you've got a little model and he bounces around the board and does stuff. And in your turn, you sort of draw a card, play a card from your hand, and those cards let you do different actions. You could move to a different location. You could punch something. You can save a little civilian, that kind of stuff. If you run out of cards and you don't have any in your hand, you don't have any in your deck for whatever reason, then you lose as well. So there is a couple of ways to lose. The only way to win is basically stop the villain, and you've got to rescue a certain number of civilians or beat up a certain amount of thugs or anything before you're allowed to attack the villain, which lets them sort of get ahead. But as I said, you can have up to 4 people playing cooperatively. And the tactical mechanic of it, or the bit that's really kind of fun, is you play a card from your hand in your turn. So you sort of go three player turns, and then a villain AI turn. They basically just, you play a card from their deck, and that kind of dictates what their move is. But when you play a card from your hand, it has some actions that you can take on it. So you're kind of picking, I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z, so I'll do this. But not only can you do those actions, you can also do the actions from the player card who went before you. So you kind of have this pool of actions that you can draw from, and it's not just the ones that you've got, it's the ones that happened previously as well, which give you some nice little kind of combo effects that kind of let you do extra stuff, where you can kind of sort of go, if you do this, then I can do X, Y, and Z, and have that kind of cooperative conversation across the table as well. That's my explanation. Now can you do it properly?
No, I mean, that's generally how it worked. I mean, what I will say is that this Kickstarter that you picked up is also the Kickstarter that you coerced me into backing the X-Men version.
So you say coerced.
I say coerced.
Look, I think enabled is maybe because you were going to back it. Like, we all knew that. I just gave you the excuse to blame someone else, frankly.
That's very true. But having played the game, I am actually very happy that I did back the X-Men version, because now I did have a lot of fun, and now I have a lot of X-Men models coming to help me have more fun.
So many models.
So many models. But yeah, that's basically how it goes. There's a threat counter that goes up every time something happens for the villain, and if he gets to the end of his threat counter, he wins. What I like about this game in particular is that it's all co-op.
Yes.
There's just something about a good co-op game that really does it for me, because you either all win or you all lose, and you do it as a team. And the aspect of using the items on the previous card allows for some pretty cool tactics. I don't think, at least myself, I didn't put enough thought into that when we played.
Absolutely not. I feel like we were still working on getting the base mechanics right and just kind of playing through and getting a feel for how it worked. So
Yep.
I feel a couple of plays in, you start, and I was having this thought today, just going, fundamentally, they say draw a hand, and every player draws a hand and they look at their cards and that's it. If you played open hands, it would potentially open that. And it's up to you who you share your cards with, right? Yeah. But ultimately, it's you then have all right, well, what's going to happen? What can you do in the next turn? And you've got a little bit more of this planning. It could also slow the game down a hell of a lot. But yes, that kind of conversation around, if because someone says, I can do this or this, and you go, well, if you do that, I can then do.
Yep.
And it kind of opens up those kind of conversations, which is the fun bit. I think that's the really kind of tactical element of it.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps the biggest element that we just didn't accommodate too well when we played.
And the other half of it is when to achieve objectives. So there was probably some space, and when we get to actually talking through the games that we played, where we went, we can hit this objective and it's great, but it also means that there's in-game effects that allow the villain to do other things. So you almost want to tread water a little bit until you can hit a couple at once.
That's it. I mean, as far as the objectives, may as well talk about them now. So each game you have 3 objectives that save a certain number of civilians, beat up enough bad guys, and do enough. What are the cards?
So you're removing threats. So each location has got a little threat card on it, and it's basically bad stuff that happens when you're in that location. But you can spend some time either it's a little kind of bad guy henchman standing on that card that you got to beat up, or there's a certain other thing you've got to do, heroic actions, which is one of the actions on the card to get rid of. And so once you clear one of those objectives, so you've either saved enough civilians, or you beat enough bad guys, or you cleared some threats, and one of those cards goes away, all of a sudden the villain acts every second player turn, not every third player turn. So he does a lot more bad. He goes into kind of desperation mode. Then after you clear the second one of those objectives, you can then start attacking the villain directly. So he's basically, he's Barley up until the point that you do those 2 secondary objectives, and then you can start wailing on him. So,
and plus, after the second and the third ones, you get a bonus. So
everyone gets to draw a card straight away, which is a good thing. It gives you some more options. So, I think we discovered in that first game the danger of
letting the villain go every second turn without being able to attack him. Yeah. So first game, we definitely cleared off one of them too quickly. And then, well, not necessarily too quickly, but we didn't coordinate it. So in the second game, we cleared off 2 pretty much
within
together.
A turn of each other. Yeah.
And that meant that while the bad stuff started speeding up, we also couldn't then start hitting the bad guy and trying to actually win the game. Whereas in the first game, didn't necessarily realize the effect of him speeding up so much.
So first game, we chose Carnage for the bad guy.
Yes.
And he basically go around and he just did a lot of damage to a lot of things, and just he went a little bit crazy, as you would expect Carnage to do, which is kind of cool. We all played kind of Spider-Verse, almost all played Spider-Verse style heroes as well.
Kind of, yeah, like to an extent. So we had Jared there. We also had Alice there, who had popped in to look at James and Lockie's game, and then we kind of coerced her in.
Coercion is a theme that we're starting to really...
Yeah, well, okay. The Coercion podcast, which should rebrand. But... So, yeah, Jared played Venom. So Venom versus Carnage. That seems quite appropriate. Alice played Black Widow. I played Moon Knight because I thought, well, there's a Moon Knight TV show coming out soon. Let's give him a go. And you played...
The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl.
Yes, because why not? I've only got a couple of notes for each game. Because
it's a couple more than me. Continue.
So I think we said before, when you take a damage as a hero, you basically lose a card. So you start off with 3 cards, drawing a card every round, and then playing a card. So you get your choice of 4, basically. When you are taking damage, you discard cards. So you start playing it out of a lesser hand. And when you lose all your cards completely, you're knocked out. Carnage managed to knock out both Venom and Black Widow in this game, which is not a good sign.
No.
And the other note I have here is Carnage wins.
Yes. And look, realistically, as I said, we were kind of getting used to the mechanics. We realized that we could meet one of the objectives pretty quickly, and we saved a bunch of civilians relatively early. But what that did was Carnage then went on an absolute rampage and proceeded to just spawn, like his victory conditions just skyrocketed from that point onwards, and we trying to scramble to a stage where we could at least try and beat up on him, and I don't think we even got there.
No.
So that was a pretty brutal initiation for the team, and I maintain I totally had an ace. Oh, was it this game or was it the next one? I swear I had an ace in the hole for one of them, but anyway, we'll come back to that. And it just never came to fruition. No, it was this one. So there was basically a card in my hand that said that I had like from turn 1 that said if you play this and you have more special, because some of the cards have got like special abilities on them. So as well as just a move or a punch or a thing, they've got like some unique actions for that hero. And it basically said if you play this card and you have more cards that have been played in what they call the storyline, then the villain has wounds remaining, the heroes win.
Okay.
We never got to that stage. We never got close, but I was holding on to that going, right, I am going to absolutely just ace this sucker when it's time, and it was never time. So, yeah, we all kind of licked our wounds a little bit after. I went, holy shit, this game's tougher than I thought. Maybe it's an expansion issue. Maybe we should go back to one of the villains from the core set and you start at the start and kind of work up from there.
Because that's usually how games go. They introduce you off pretty easily and then ramp up the difficulty later on. That's the usual thing.
So game 2, we pick out Red Skull.
And who is easier than Red Skull, I ask? He's your basic villain. Happened to be in like one Captain America film.
He seemed pretty easy to beat in that one.
Yeah, look, exactly. We decided to change around the heroes a bit. So instead of Venom, Jared chose War Machine. We went for a bit of a theme here. Instead of Moon Knight, I decided to go Hulk because I thought I could do some damage to this skull dude. For Alice, instead of Black Widow, she went Black Widow.
Seeing a pattern forming here?
Yep. And you, Jace?
Nick Fury.
So we're very Avengers sort of based now.
And I will say it is very hard not to do that. You pick out the villain as an example, and it's really hard to go, oh, but it's so like it's cinematic, it's thematic, it's all the right things. No one was going to choose Captain America because we're not those kind of people, but you want to it's so easy just to get hooked up in that little thing. And honestly, I'm not sure how much it makes a difference, to be honest.
Probably none at all. I mean, it just seems wrong to go up against, say, Carnage and take Thor.
Why? Why would he bother?
Why would he bother? Anyway, game 2. Got 2 notes here.
Ooh.
Absolutely none of us got KO'd.
I know, right? We lived.
I know, we lived.
That being said, I will say that Carnage, very much his mechanic was focused on doing damage. He just murdered stuff as he went along. Red Skull was more around throwing like thugs and civilians onto locations So he was kind of not necessarily doing direct damage to us, but he was making our objectives a lot harder by throwing thugs and civilians onto all our locations, and then when you couldn't fit them, it increased his, I think it was a fear tracker in this instance. So when he filled up a location and you couldn't fit any more dudes on, then he kind of progressed his win objective.
Yep.
So he wasn't really trying to KO us, but we didn't get KO'd.
The other thing is that, like, in the first game, we had a couple of Carnage type dudes as the, what are they called? The threat
little henchmen,
cards?
The threat cards.
So, and they were doing a lot of damage to us. Whereas I think we managed to clear out all the heavy hitters on Red Skull's threats pretty quickly. Like Hulk has a card which is Hulk Smash, which basically has a move on it. And then when he moves, he does damage to everything there. Oh, I mean, you can choose which order to do this in, but so I was moving around and just annihilating bad guys and doing damage to the henchmen, and I don't think they really stood much of a chance in the second one.
And
they were probably weaker than the first game, true, but we didn't give them a chance.
It was interesting, though, because the Carnage ones were all identical henchmen. They were all like little symbiote clone type dudes. Whereas this one, we had Crossbones as one, and he had like 6 wounds. And then we had somebody else that had like...
Madam Hydra, there
you go, 5. And then I think we had Hydra Bob as the last one, and he had less amount of wounds. So it was kind of, it was a little bit skewed that way, but we focused on them pretty quickly. And cleared them all out because I feel like we were a little bit sore from Carnage, and we just thought, all right, I'm not having that again.
Absolutely. We learnt from the first game, which is surprising for us. And then, like we said, in this game, we cleared off 2 of those cards really quickly, simultaneously almost, so that when he started going every second turn, we were already in a position where we could start attacking him.
Yeah. And attack him we did.
And we did. And my second note here for the second game is that Red Skull won.
He totally won. So basically the way Red Skull works is he drops a bunch of civilians and thugs onto locations, and he has this fear tracker which goes up to 20. And every time...
Which was double Carnage's.
Yeah, I know. Carnage's was 10. We're like, happy days. So every time a little civilian can't be placed and things like that, it got advanced. But also he had a kind of what they call a BAM action. So sometimes his cards would play civilians and stuff, and sometimes they would play this BAM thing. And the BAM thing increased his little win fear objective tracker by 2. Not just 1, by 2. So actually it was no easier than playing Carnage at all. It was just a different mechanic.
We did punch him a few times.
We were actually very close. And honestly, if we had slightly different cards and slightly different things happened and all that kind of thing, I feel like that was actually a chance. But alas, 'twas not to be. I blame War Machine.
Yeah, why not? Okay, let's do that. But the game itself was a lot of fun. Really, once we got the aspect of the game down and how it works, relatively straightforward. Wasn't an awful lot of things that we went actually to the rule book for. And it's something I would like to play again. It's something I would like to win at some point.
Yes.
So we need to play a bit more.
I absolutely do, but I think the thing for me is it strikes a really good balance between being cooperative and that kind of thing, which makes it a good game to have a couple of people around and kind of play. But it's a really good balance between has enough tactics and depth and variation that keeps it interesting, but it's not brain melting. And it's relatively quick. Like it's not super time intensive. It's not super space intensive. It's not like it takes up a little bit of space, but you can play it on the kitchen table, no probs.
I mean, what time were we supposed to get there? We were probably only playing for 2 hours, if not less.
Yeah, and we were dicking around for a lot of that.
Yeah, and we got 2 games in easily.
Yep. Yeah, so they're less than hour games, especially once you knew how to play and you kind of knew what was going on. Yeah, you're playing for an hour with 3 mates, having some fun, doing some stuff. And as I said, it's kind of that really nice balance between enough depth to keep it interesting, but not too much depth that you feel broken at the end of it. Like we wanted to go again.
Yeah.
I am a little bit interested also, speaking of games that we probably won't win. So I've got the Infinity Gauntlet expansion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to try that.
And the premise for that is you basically fight each of the Black Order before you fight Thanos. And depending on how you go in those initial games, depends on how many Infinity Gems Thanos has for the final battle. So I feel like that would be a fun couple of games, a couple of nights of gaming, trying to...
Let's win a game before we try winning 3 or 4 games. How many black guys were there? Is it just the 3?
4.
Or was it 4?
Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw, Cull Obsidian. Yeah, all 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So 5 games. So if we can win a game before we lose 5 straight, that would be good.
I just had a moment where I've realized that the names of the Black Order all have black in them in different words.
Oh, dear.
Holy shit. This is the sound of my mind being blown, people.
I am so smart. I am so SMRT.
Things that you don't pay attention to. I'm just like, oh, they have a name, cool story. Oh, they've come up with some fun names. How did they? Okay. Anywho, we're here now.
Okay. That was Marvel United.
Twas.
Definitely enjoyable and definitely something that we will play more of and have a bit of fun with. Apart from that, we played a little bit more Chaos Bane on the Xbox.
I've played more Chaos Bane than I've played anything else.
You've been going hard, and not only that, but you've been upping the difficulty as you go along.
Well, I worked out you get better stuff.
You get better stuff, that's true, but you're still murderizing everything you come across. But what are you on? Very difficult at the moment?
Yeah, it's on very hard or something. It was basically on as hard as it would let me put it on.
Mm-hmm. And you haven't finished the game yet?
No.
So normally that's something I reserve for after I finish the game. If I go that far.
And here is the thing. I very rarely, if ever, finish games. It's not, I don't know. So if I'm going to do it, I'll do it once. But what happened is I tagged into a couple of friends' games and did some multiplayer pieces. But it turns out the XP in this thing is shared, and they were much further ahead than me. Mm-hmm. So I jumped a bunch of levels, and then I've gone back into my own game, and I'm a lot more advanced than I was before. And all of a sudden, shit died a lot easier. Funny that.
Yes, I have found that also.
So I started just burning through this, and I'm like, oh shit, well, this is easy. Well, let's see if I up it to hard, what happens? And it was still the same. It basically was no difference. But you get better loot. And I'm like, well, fuck it. Let's up this to very hard and see what happens. And it turns out stuff still dies. So I'm now burning through on very hard. They do a little kind of separate thing where it's the Tower of Chaos or whatever it's called.
Yep.
I went through 10 floors of that last night.
By yourself?
Yeah.
On very hard still?
Yeah. Just got to the end of that. I got through 10 floors. That'll do. I'll bail out and I'll do some more of the story. I
need to find out, like, you're playing the elf. I was playing the elf. Some guy jumped into my game at some point, and I don't know what level I was, like, probably mid-20s or something. This is before I jumped in with you guys.
Yeah.
And he was definitely legend, which is past the 50 level cap, and he progressed a bit more than that, obviously. Mm-hmm. He was running around with a ring of fire around him, and he would just walk into things and they would die. And I haven't come across this skill yet
I know, right?
in my elfin practice. But he took me through about 20 levels of that tower thing, which was him perhaps resurrecting me at the end when he'd walked into everybody, or me just hiding as much as I could.
Yeah.
Because I had no chance at that level of killing anything.
It has been, as I said, I've jumped in a couple of games with a couple of friends, and these are kind of old wargaming buddies and stuff, and we've played a few times. But it's kind of good just to chill out. There's not a lot of thinking. You're smashing A lot because it's basically Diablo. And just you can kind of chat and banter and have fun and all that kind of stuff at the same time. Yes, there's a storyline. Yes, you're going through it, but you can kind of take the piss and not take it too seriously. And again, it finds that really, like, firstly, it's very linear. You follow the story. That is all. And that suits me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give me open world. That's silly.
It's very much Warhammer Diablo. There's nothing else to it. There's 5 classes. I think I've leveled up. I think my lowest at the moment is level 11 now. But I've been jumping in as a level 2 or a level 5 or whatever into your games and just tagging along with you, soaking up XP.
Yeah. And the very first time I did that with someone, I jumped in at one level and I was 10 levels higher at the end of that hour or something. It was ridiculous. Yeah, I think I started the dwarf, the Slayer, at one point, but I'm not going to play it through again. Like, I will play through it once and be done with it, so that's why I figured I can bump it up and just do it once, do it properly, and then I'll just casually jump in on games and stuff if people are playing, just murder some stuff and move on with my life. Good fun, though. Yeah. Just, as I said, that real cruisy kind of, you can just unwind with it. I think that's the bit I like.
Yeah. Look, like you said, I mean, you don't generally play games through to completion that much. I'm more of an achievement whore, so I like that little achievement thing that pops up on the Xbox. So there's achievements for finishing the storyline with all of the 5 characters, and then there's an achievement for finishing it with all of the 5 characters. So I think I've more or less leveled up most of my guys enough that I can probably run through the storylines pretty quickly with them. I have finished with the dwarf, I finished with the elf, and I think I'm currently running through with the female dwarf. I'm pretty sure I'm at I think I'm up to the Bloodthirster nearly. So getting there. But yeah, good simple game, pretty brain dead, mash buttons, kill stuff, and it's basically 4 areas, and they're all a Chaos God: Nurgle, Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and it's kind of cool. Even though I'd probably prefer to be doing it the other way around, but it's kind of cool to be killing Chaos guys.
Yeah, and look, I like the IP. But I like the fact that they've kind of themed all of the areas. It gives you that feel. You get the different demons and the different stuff, and they all act a little bit differently and a little bit funky. They've done enough to give it the flavor, and that's probably the piece I like. And then you nuke everything and move on.
That's it.
So that is between that and Vermintide and a little bit of Mortal Kombat. That is all I've done on the Xbox. But I will say this is the most Xbox I have played in a very, very long time. And it legitimately got to the stage where I had to come out and paint something just so I didn't feel guilty for using my spare time doing something that didn't result in something being done.
Well, it's resulting in you getting more levels on Chaos Bane.
Yeah, but I didn't have more painted stuff to show for that, and I felt bad. There was legitimate guilt, and I had to come out and just start painting some stuff. So now I'm kind of rewarding myself with Chaos Bane after I've done some painting.
Seems fair. I did jump on the Xbox last night, but I spent a bit of time, or maybe it was yesterday afternoon, just going through the new games that have been added onto Game Pass. And I did come across two that I will mention briefly just on the absurdity of them. I did come across one which is called I Am Fish. And it seems to be sort of a platformy, puzzly game where you are a goldfish in a goldfish bowl, which is sealed, and you're rolling this goldfish bowl.
Oh, like hamster ball kind of style.
Like a hamster ball, yes. Very interesting. I started playing it when my kids were watching this afternoon, and before too long, I had smashed the goldfish bowl on the ground, and the goldfish was flopping around on the ground. And I got a bit worried, but I quickly managed to work out how to reset it so that every time after that I was about to crash, I would just reset back to the previous checkpoint. Kind of cute. The other one I did come across, which is worth mentioning because it just seems stupid, is a game called Skatebird. Now, this is pretty much Tony Hawk if you're a bird.
Birds can fly.
Birds can fly, but birds can also, it appears, ride skateboards and do tricks. And it's pretty much Tony Hawk as a bird. It's cute, it's stupid, and I'm halfway through the second level after finishing all the missions on the first, because that's the way we roll.
You did show me this vaguely, briefly, shortly, and he does little, like when every time he leaves the ground, does his little jumps in his airtime, his little wings flap.
And there's a button that you can press to squawk. Oh. Doesn't do anything else.
No, zero game effect.
Yeah. Just crazy. And there's a storyline that goes with it, and you're talking to other birds, and some of these birds are dressed up. And I mean, I made my bird originally a pink bird with a pink mohawk and a cape. And they mention somebody's cousin at one point whose name is Anthony, and he's a hawk. He's Anthony Hawk. So yeah, it's legitimately
somebody
stupid.
Spent time, effort, and potentially money developing this,
just so I could play it for free on the Game Pass.
Did they think it was ever going to come to anything else? Like, I'm impressed it made it a Game Pass.
I don't know. But here I am promoting it because it's funny. I don't know how much longer I'll play it, but I have played it.
Skatebird.
But that's it as far as I'm concerned. Oh, no, one more thing. I did get a Magic game in yesterday. A Commander game, Magic the Gathering. I'm sure, yeah. It's a wonderful taste in your mouth, I'm sure. But I did win this one, so I was happy. That being said, this is my second Commander game that I have ever played, and I've only played them 2 players, and I think Commanders are supposed to be like a big multiplayer event. So I don't think I'm playing it correctly, which goes with the theme of the podcast.
I was about to say, that's just what we do, right? So everybody wins.
All right. Just quickly, before we wrap up, let's talk about what's on. I do want to quickly talk about the Paint It Pink competition that we have going. You have just slightly less than 2 weeks still to enter, finish, whatever you're doing for the Paint It Pink. We want to see the pink bits. As long, we've said it before, but as long as some part of the model doesn't have to be all of it like Jace's, it can be a little tiny part of it. Just something needs to be pink. That's all that we ask.
I did spend a significant amount of time really quickly just going through finding models that other people have painted once upon a time that featured like pink in them. Mm-hmm. There is a lot. I was going to create a gallery, and then I didn't want to kind of, put people off by throwing in professionally painted models that featured pink. So I kind of abandoned that thought, but I feel like there is a lot of opportunity just to use it as a feature color somewhere in the model to do something. And this is kind of a really cool excuse just to pull something out and try something new. Just paint a single model. And I feel like there's 2 weeks left.
Mm-hmm.
round figures, that is flat out, that is time to paint something. Don't even start with me.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is the kind of event where cool idea totally beats execution every day of the week.
We're not looking for professional here. We're looking for something cool that tickles our funny bones.
Yeah.
So
if your pink bits tickle my pink bits, we are probably in a winning combination right there. Sorry, I wanted to stop for whatever thought that was.
No, I was just going to say I got so caught up with Titans and how good season 3 started that I didn't talk about my painting. I did pledge my 4 ogres for the next Blood Bowl team as my painted pink. I have been progressing on those. I have pretty much finished the 8 snotlings that'll be the team. I have finished one of the ogres. The second ogre needs pretty much just blue highlights for the armor, and then he'll be done. So that'll be 10 models nearly done apart from the bases, and I've just got 2 more to go. So once they are done, I'll put a photo up in the event. But
love it.
Yeah, look, and going back to what you were saying about contrast, that's pretty much what I've used here. I've used contrast as the base colors, and then the majority of the contrast then I've built up with layer paints, but some of it has just been contrast, and I just like how that works. They work so easily.
Yeah.
And I can now count the number of contrasts that I don't have on one hand, which is bad. But they are definitely forming that sort of base coat role in my painting. And I'm excited.
Good fun.
You carry on.
No, that's fine. As I said, there's still time. As I said, 2 weeks, you got time to paint stuff. Pick a model, smash some pink on it. Like, do something cool. And I feel like it's the kind of thing that lends itself to, your plasma weapons or your bloody glowy orbs of fire and, fucking that kind of cool shit. You can just paint something flat out, paint, and don't feel like it needs to be. I have gone stupid with fluorescent pink, but pastels are a thing. Like, there is a whole spectrum of pink.
What we are looking for in the so-called judging that will be done is more my level of skill, which is very low, not Jace's level, so don't pay too much attention to his.
I honestly think, like, the piece here, though, is forget skill level, competency, technical application, any of that stuff. The piece we're looking for is cool use of pink. Come up with something cool and then do it.
Yes.
That's basically it. And this is a good chance just to back yourself, try something, because we're probably going to think it's cool. If you heard this podcast, we think a lot of shit that is cool. Like, so I feel like, it's a safe space for everybody.
We love all pink bits, and we want yours.
Yeah. So very much encourage anyone who is thinking about it, who would be interested, who would just like an excuse to paint something. Here it is. Knock yourself out. I'm actually impressed on how much of just the stuff I've painted are not for this. Like, I'm just looking at my desk and kind of cabinet. There is a significant amount of actual pink in there. Apparently, it's part of my repertoire. I didn't realize this.
I've always been fond of putting pink on a model.
I feel like it's your bad influence, because every time I'm like, oh, what color should I do a thing? Guess what answer I get? Yeah.
More pink. Needs more pink.
Anywho, that is definitely a thing that we fully encourage you to enter. It's virtual. It's free. It's all of the things that make it very, very easy.
Yes.
Go forth.
And prosper.
And sure. Procreate? No. Multiply?
No, it's not those pink bits we're talking about.
Okay, my bad.
Other thing that I want to mention is next Saturday, so the 25th at this stage. Throw the Dice are doing a Malifaux Brawl. And if you are at all intrigued by Malifaux, Enforcer Brawl or whatever it's called now, it's not called Enforcer Brawl.
It doesn't matter. Yeah,
it's a brawl. That is the way to have fun. This is I like playing Malifaux, like the full game, but I love playing the brawl because it's crazy, it's fun, it's unpredictable. It just seems to be that sort of level that I just dig.
Yes. Look, it is not a game to take seriously, but the other thing it is really, really good for, and I will call this out, is if you're relatively new to Malifaux or you're just interested in seeing what it's like, what it does is it exposes you to a lot of different models because everyone's only playing one model, but it's multiplayer, so you get to see a lot of shit happening. But it also is a really, really good way to just get used to the basic mechanic of Malifaux, that whole concept of the cards instead of the dice, but the flips, the positives, the negatives, the cheating fate, that kind of core mechanic that makes up Malifaux, and really test it to see if that's something that you kind of dig. So it's low investment in that it's one model, and it's, you know, if you really, really just want to try it and you haven't even got a model, I'm reasonably sure that's not a hindrance. And then it's a show up and play some multiplayer games of craziness where no one really cares who wins or loses, have some fun, do some stupid shit, and try it out.
If I can quote the post that Rich has put up, I'll quote some of it. This is a learning and fun event first and foremost. The day is for fun and trying some really fun, wacky stuff with our crews. It's a learning opportunity if you've never played Malifaux. If you have, then you probably already know that these events are just going to be fun and crazy and definitely worth getting involved if you can.
Yeah. 'Tis not for the competitive of heart.
No.
And that is exactly why it's the best thing in the world.
It's one model. Rules that Rich has posted say that model must be painted. So if you have a model that you have not painted,
paint it pink.
Paint it pink. Done. Easy.
See, fixed. Definitely get along to that if you can at all make it. It will be a fun day. Regards.
That's it. That's it from me. You got anything else you want to add?
Did we want to mention any other fun ways that they can interact with the podcast?
Fun ways?
Well, it could be, maybe. That's what people get kicks out of. I'm not judging.
I suppose. We, both of us, one of us more than the other, do stream on Twitch. If you want, by all means, follow us on Twitch. And I think I'll probably in the next day or two be doing some more work on the ogres if you want to jump in and have a chat. I did put a post up the other day talking about Patreon. So at least I have been asked a couple of times in the past if we had a Patreon that people could support us on. Jason and I have had a couple of conversations about this going over the last couple of weeks. And both of us are fairly adamant in the fact that if you are the sort of person that wants to help us out and give us money, we need to give you something for that money. I don't want you to give us money and just we keep on doing what we're doing, because we're doing this for fun. We're doing this to have a bit of a laugh, get together and, play some games, do some hobby, make sure that we keep involved as much as we can in the hobby side of things. And this is our excuse to do that. Without you giving us money, we're still going to keep doing that. So if you do decide to join us on Patreon, we have put up a couple of tiers that we think hopefully will give you something back for your hard-earned money. And the only reason that I have logged us on Patreon in the first place is that that money that we get from you guys, we want to put back into you guys. We want to start giving some giveaways, some prizes, run some more competitions, have events that we can use that money on, and basically provide like a fun time for as many people as possible.
Look, and that was the sort of the big piece of the conversation. It's like, what do we want to do that we can't currently do because we would have to bankroll it ourselves, and we're both cheapskates. So that's kind of the piece there. And so all of a sudden,
we've both got kids.
Well, there's that too, and it turns out just money sponges. They don't even know it.
God, I've got 2 birthdays coming up soon too.
Ugh.
Both of my kids, I planned this really well. Both of my kids' birthdays are within 4 days of each other.
Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was poor planning.
Yeah, I know.
But
right?
you take what you can get. So yeah, it's one of those pieces where it's kind of like it gives us some opportunity to do some more stuff, and we totally are up for that part of it. The other half of it is the other discussion has been around what could we do for those tier levels? What would be worthwhile someone backing? So hopefully, you have a flick through, and what you'll see is some options that will be worthwhile throwing some cash at the show. If that is something that at all interests you or you think is worthwhile supporting. If you do not think that is worthwhile supporting, I 100% support that decision. First and foremost, there is absolutely zero pressure. And, legitimately part of the conversation we've been having is, would you pay for that? Because I'm not sure I would pay for that. So hopefully we've landed on a happy medium where it's reasonable. It's not ridiculous amounts. It's something that is worthwhile for you, and it will give us some opportunity to give more back, because that's basically all we're hoping to do. Rope some more people into doing some more hobby.
That's it. Yeah, we're having fun. Honestly, I've gotten a real kick out of the response that I've had to this podcast in the past. There's been a couple of times when my voice has been recognized when I'm out and about in some of these coffee shops, and that does my head in. But just the general positiveness that I've heard back from people is really been sweet, and we want to give some of that back to you guys in whatever way we can.
Yeah. So drink from our sweet nectar.
Yes.
That's all I got. That's my only addition. Really, I'm not here to add value. We know that. I need
to have more pineapple in my diet. On that note, let's leave it there. What I will say is, give us a follow if you haven't already. Facebook, Spotify, Podbean, Twitch, like I said. If you've got any comments, if you've got any pointers, any ways that you think we can play United better.
If you've got any suggestions on how we can do anything. And I'm talking from painting, gaming, playing a specific game, doing a podcast better. Hell, let's talk about investment and capital and equity. If you think that's something that we could do better, tell us how we can be better humans. Improve us. That's what we're here for, really. We're here to be better.
It doesn't take much, but we need you to help us.
Low fucking bar in
it. What we will be doing is, if anyone does decide to grace us with a little bit of money on Patreon, we will be acknowledging every new person on the podcast. So we have already had 2. So thank you very much, Alice and Fox. Much, much, much appreciated. And like we said, we just, we want to give back.
These are legitimately my 2 new favorite humans in the world.
Absolutely. On that note, I got nothing more.
Nah, I got shit all. But I had that at the start.
You can just tune in to the start of the podcast for more of the same. Thank you very much for listening. If you haven't, it doesn't matter what I say to you then. Laters.
Gotcha.
Casual gaming.
So let's casual gaming. It's hard to say if it's hard to play when you don't know the rules of the game. Roll the dice with bad advice. The outcome is always the same. So let's casual gaming. So let's casual gaming. So let's casual gaming. So let's